Waseem had always been a man deeply in love with life, and even more so with Maria, his wife. They lived a modest yet beautiful existence amid the rolling hills of their village. Their days were filled with simple joys, strolls beneath the open sky, shared laughter over meals, and countless quiet moments that spoke volumes of their bond. To Waseem, Maria wasn't just a wife, she was his world, a force of nature wrapped in warmth and grace. And every morning, without fail, Maria would wake early, lace up her running shoes, and head out for her daily jog near the hill that bordered their village. The hill was a natural barrier, a powerful geographic landmark that surrounded their floating little world. It seemed eternal, immovable. That morning, like so many others before it, Maria left for her run with a soft kiss as Waseem continued his chores at home. He liked knowing she was out there, enjoying the peace of the hills, but moments later his world came crashing down. Waseem heard it first. Maria's voice, distant but full of pain, tearing across the quiet village. He sprinted toward the sound, his heart pounding as if it already knew what his mind couldn't yet comprehend. There, near the hill where she always ran, she lay crumpled on the ground. She had slipped on a patch of loose stones during her run, the treacherous terrain turning her peaceful morning into a nightmare. Her injuries were severe, too severe. Maria clutched Waseem's hand as he knelt beside her, her voice a faint whisper asking for help. Desperation surged through Waseem's veins. He had to get her to a hospital, but the hospital was far too far, and there was no direct route to the city. The hill stood like a fortress, forcing anyone seeking help to go around it, a journey that would take hours they didn't have. Waseem tried. With all the strength and love he had in him, he tried. But by the time he reached help, Maria was gone. The vibrant, joyous woman who had filled his life with purpose faded into silence forever. The pain was unbearable. In the days that followed, Waseem was consumed by grief, but nestled within the depths of his sorrow grew a spark of something else: resolve. The hill that had stolen Maria from him would no longer stand in the way of anyone seeking help. Waseem made a vow, one forged in love and loss. He would carve a road through that hill, a direct path to the city, and ensure no one else would suffer like Maria had. And in her honor, he would name that road Maria's Way. No one believed him. When Waseem began his work, word spread quickly across the village. People laughed, some even openly mocking him. "He's digging through that hill," they scoffed. "With his hands, with that pickaxe, he's gone mad." The hill was massive, a looming wall of rock and earth that had resisted man's efforts to conquer it for generations. It was the kind of undertaking that required machines, teams, resources, none of which Waseem had. All he had was his determination and a memory of the woman who had made his life whole. The first few days were grueling. Waseem would spend hours under the blazing sun, his hands blistered and his muscles aching, chipping away at the immensity of the hill, one rock at a time. The villagers would pass by, shaking their heads as they watched him relentlessly swinging his pickaxe. Some pitied him, others shook their heads in disbelief. "It's a fool's errand," they'd say among themselves. "He's wasting his life." But Waseem didn't care. In his mind, Maria's voice spurred him on every day. And so the days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, and the months into years. Progress was achingly slow at first. For every meter Waseem carved, it felt like the hill pushed back tenfold. But slowly the ground began to yield under his persistence. Rainstorms didn't stop him. Neither did the searing heat of summer nor the biting winds of winter. Every time someone told him it was impossible, every time they ridiculed his efforts, Waseem's determination only grew stronger. "If I stop," he'd tell himself, "Maria's sacrifice will have been for nothing." The years passed, and eventually the ridicule faded. People grew used to the sight of Waseem working tirelessly at his hill. A few neighbors even started to bring him water, meals. Small gestures for the man they once mocked but now quietly admired. Children would watch and ask their parents, "Why is he doing that?" And the parents would answer with a mixture of awe and sorrow, "He's doing it for love." The road began to take shape, one painstaking meter at a time. Villagers who once doubted him now saw the possibility of his dream. And while some would still question if he'd ever finish, the tone of their voices had shifted. Maybe, just maybe, he could. Years became decades. Waseem aged, but he never wavered. His strength might have diminished, but his purpose never did. While the rocks weighed heavier and his steps slowed, his heart burned with the same fire it had carried for Maria all those years ago. 22 years after he began, Waseem laid down his pickaxe and stared at the road before him. He had done it. The path carved from stubborn stone stretched through the hill, connecting the village with the city beyond. What others had called madness, he called love. What others called impossible, he called Maria's promise. The villagers gathered to celebrate his achievement. They stood in awe of what one man, armed only with his grief and devotion, had accomplished. The road was smooth, clear, and beautiful in its simplicity. Above the entrance to the hill, Waseem had placed a humble sign that read, "Maria's Way." For Waseem, the road wasn't just a way to honor his wife. It was a gift to the village, to ensure no one else would lose a loved one because of the distance to help. People from all over the area came to see the road and hear the story of the man who'd built it. They came not just to marvel at his work, but to understand the love that had moved a mountain. Waseem grew old with a peace he hadn't felt in years. Maria was gone, and nothing could change that. But now, in every traveler who walked Maria's way, in every life saved by the road that didn't exist before, Waseem felt her presence. Her name would live on, carved into stone just as it was carved into his heart. And so what began as one man's grief became a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the determination to leave the world better than he found it. To this day, travelers on Maria's Way pause to admire the simplicity of the road and the depth of the story behind it. For in the quiet of that path, one can almost hear Waseem's unyielding promise whispered on the breeze, "For you, Maria, for always."